Hello Eternum, this is that guy. Today I have what I think is the strongest solo PvE build in the entire game, and I have seen a lot of videos claiming this while they only take on 2 or 3 enemies at once. And to kind of prove my point, I'm going to pull a ridiculous number of mobs in the Shattered Mountains and attempt to survive this encounter. And as you will see, I've completely misplaced my healing circle, so that is not exactly going to help me. I will try to do this entire encounter without using mana potions. Do keep in mind, this is a best in slot, almost in-game tier build. My gear is really good, and I do have quite a lot of experience soloing with this build. So, as you can see, I am cleaving down a bunch of mobs. I already killed more than a dozen, and this encounter is pretty much over. Unfortunately, due to the population of the server, at the end of this fight, someone else is going to join in, but by that time, it is pretty clear that this is not going to be a challenge for me. So yep, that pretty much ended the fight. Unfortunately, someone else joined in, but it should be pretty obvious that that fight was over. So to kind of prove that the build itself is good, I'm now going to switch to possibly the worst gear I could find in the trading post, and none of the perks are relevant, and I'm just gonna buy the cheapest thing with the relevant stats. So the whole gear set cost me less than 200 gold on the trading post. And I'm also switching to a 500 gear score Void Gauntlet, and my stat will be 150 con, 165 focus, and rest into intelligence. So with this much more budget build, in fact much worse than even faction gear, I can still take on 5 mobs at once, cleaving them down without popping any potions. A lot of this just takes on experience, and I will go over the build. And I think if you're a new player who's freshly 60 or an experienced player, you could benefit a lot from trying it out. Because right now, Void Gauntlet is really well positioned, and you don't even need to be adept with any secondary weapons. You can also use this build to solo a lot of content, including tentacles to get some chests or orichalcum farming going in the Shattered Mountains, or pretty much everything else in the game. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kill, and throughout this whole thing I never needed a potion even with terrible gear. Now that I have finished the showcasing of the build, I can explain why it was so effective in PvE. So if we take a look at the Void Gauntlet tree, we're using Void Blade, Oblivion, and Petrifying Scream. So throughout the entire fight against big mob of enemy, because of a tree I have here, I'm able to achieve massive amount of Fortify. So the last talent in the Petrifying Scream tree, you can get Fortifying Echoes. You can get 3 stacks of 10% Fortify for each enemy hit by the screen. That's gonna give you 30% Fortify already, even with no gems whatsoever on your gear. So that's a lot of damage mitigation. And right after pulling out your Void Blade, you will get Fortify on start, which gives you 20% Fortify. So just between those two, you're gonna reach your maximum Fortify of 50%. As well as that, you can get massive amount of stamina regen inside your Oblivion with Invigorating Oblivion, because if you have enough stamina and stamina regen, you can dodge and just avoid a lot of damage. Not only that, inside Oblivion, your attacks will inflict weaken on the targets, reducing the damage they do. So all these things combined is cutting down the damage you take by a massive amount. So that's really powerful. And yeah, you get critical strike chance above a certain mana, and just a lot of critical strike for different reasons. And whenever you critical strike, you gain health equal to 15% of the damage done. So the critical strike, if you can stack that on the gear and along with the help you get from the tree, will give you a lot of life leech. And when you pull out your blade, you start attacking, and instead of doing the throw, you're actually gonna do a lot of cleave damage. This slash will hit multiple enemies at once, allowing you to leech back a lot of life. And when you drop down Oblivion in a typical rotation, you'll want to potentially Petrifying Screen, getting the fortified stacks. You want to lay down Oblivion, which will give you 20% empower when you're inside the circle, and you can just pull out a blade and just go crazy. That's going to give you a lot of fortify, a lot of life leech, and a lot of weaken on the enemy. That's what makes this build so good at soloing in PvE content. So as far as stat distribution, you will want 200 constitution and as much intelligence as you can get, especially if you can get life leech on the gear. There are several Void Gauntlet you can get, but the most important perks here is the life stealing, in my personal opinion, for PvE content. Or if you have really good damage rolls, you're gonna increase your damage so much that just the life leech from the tree itself is gonna keep you topped off. As far as PvE, the only important perk that I think you must have is Voracious Blade. While below 50% health, successful Void Blade hits heal self for 30% of the damage done. This is what led to you seeing in the initial video the massive amount of leech. The packs of enemies got me below 50%, but because of this perk, I was leeching life back so fast. I was not in danger as long as my blade is out and I'm doing a lot of damage. And that's coincidentally why I did not need to use any health potions. And in terms of the rest of the pieces, the other perks for PvE isn't important. So you can get Void Bent if you want to get those luck bonus, or you could get something with higher physical armor that will actually make you tankier in PvE. So you potentially could have even more optimized PvE set. But yeah, pretty much you want Leech and Critical Strike on your ring if possible. So this ring is crazy, but the dexterity is wasted and the refreshing is not essential. So if you can get something with leeching and king awareness on your ring, that's gonna be super great for the build. Even if you have some focus, that's gonna help the build too. So anything with intelligence, focus, and constitution will do the job just fine. And yeah, with this kind of stat, with less kind of gear, you can just solo pretty much everything in endgame. When you don't have good gear, you want constitution and high focus and rest into intelligence in order to sustain your build. But once you have some solid heavy armor and a nice Void Gauntlet that does decent damage, and if you can get some leech or crit on your gear, you can switch to something like this with 200 constitution and the rest of the points all into intelligence, just to boost the damage as much as possible. And the last thing I'm going to go over is the Void Collar. If you see yourself hitting multiple enemies, you're gonna have an aura around you that heals yourself and damage enemies, and it is quite powerful, and it leads to a lot of sustain when you can get this off. It lasts 5 seconds and has 20-second cooldown. This combined with all the other sort of healings, mitigations, damage reductions that I mentioned before, just makes you really tanky. Your damage is boosted by Oblivion, and yeah, overall this build is incredible for soloing. And the best part, I never even evolved the secondary weapon in this build. So you can literally wear anything you want as a secondary, and you can just level up whichever weapon that you wish to, and combine with this build over time. You're gonna get everything maxed, and you just can have a good time soloing through all the content whenever you can. Thank you so much for watching. I feel very blessed this year that I had a lot of new subscribers, and people have contacted me in game, out of game, saying that my content has helped them and to encourage me to continue without the clickbait and everything like that. And I really appreciate it, and thank you so much for subscribing, watching, and sharing. Have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season, and please stay safe, and I wish you guys had the best, just the best of holidays. Yeah, this is that Yi guy. See you later.